In 1930, explorers on a remote Arctic island found the remains of a camp that had been missing for 33 years. Inside the frozen site were 3 bodies, preserved perfectly by the cold. Alongside them lay a camera containing a roll of film that had never been developed. When those photos were finally processed, they revealed a haunting scene. 3 men standing alone on a featureless, flat expanse of white ice. These images are the final forensic record of the Andrée expedition, a warning that the Earth at the top of the world is not solid ground, but a moving crust. The man in those photos was Salomon Andrée. In July 1897, he launched an ambitious plan to reach the North Pole from the air using a massive hydrogen balloon. He called his balloon the Eagle. But within hours of launch, freezing winds began to coat the ropes in heavy ice, weighing the craft down until it hovered just meters above the frozen sea. After 65 hours of fighting for altitude, the balloon slammed into the ice, leaving the 3 men stranded hundreds of kilometers from any landmass. When they climbed out of the wreckage, they faced a reality no human had yet survived. They were standing on a sheet of frozen ocean, with thousands of meters of water beneath their boots. The crash left the men on a surface that makes a traditional rescue impossible. They were now at the mercy of a terrain that does not stay still. Without a radio or any way to signal for help, the men packed heavy sleds and began a grueling march toward the nearest known food depot. They pulled their supplies for weeks, often for 12 hours a day. But when Andrée checked their coordinates, he realized that despite their exhaustion, they had moved nowhere. This is the mechanism of ice drift. Because the North Pole is an ocean, the ice on the surface is constantly pushed by currents and wind. While Andrée and his men walked south, the ice they were standing on was drifting north at the exact same speed. They were trapped on an invisible treadmill. Their survival became a matter of physics. No amount of human willpower could overcome the fact that the ocean was moving the ground out from under them. The terrain itself was a maze of obstacles. When drifting ice sheets collide, they buckle into pressure ridges, jagged walls of ice 20 meters high that the men had to climb while dragging their sleds. Worse still were the leads. These are massive fissures that open in the ice without warning, exposing the black, freezing water below. Falling into one of these gaps is a death sentence. The water is so cold that the human body experiences total organ failure within 90 seconds. As the weeks passed, temperatures dropped to -40 degrees, and the sun disappeared for the winter. In the total darkness, the men were stalked by 600-kilogram polar bears that followed them across the shifting floes. After 3 months of walking on a surface that refused to let them escape, the men succumbed to exhaustion and the cold. Their diaries and photographs were all that remained. The Andrée expedition provided the first detailed evidence of the Arctic's true nature. It is a landscape where the environment is constantly changing shape to prevent human passage. If the foundation of the North Pole is this unstable, how do modern researchers stay there for months at a time? The solution was to stop fighting the movement. Instead of trying to stay in one place, scientists began building drifting stations that move with the ocean. In 1937, the Soviet Union launched North Pole 1. A team lived on a floating ice block for 9 months, proving that humans could survive by drifting alongside the currents that had trapped Andrée. Even today, temporary camps like Borneo are built on the ice every year, but the danger remains. In 2022, a sudden fracture in the ice floe forced the entire camp to evacuate in a matter of hours. Any structure built directly at the geographic North Pole is temporary. It is a presence maintained entirely on borrowed time. To create a permanent presence in the high Arctic, humanity had to retreat from the floating ice and build on the nearest actual land. These outposts, like Canada's CFS Alert and India's Himadri station, are anchored into solid rock. But even here, survival is an industrial effort. These stations depend on nuclear icebreakers to deliver fuel. That diesel is the only thing keeping the lights on and melting enough snow to provide drinking water for the crews. We continue this effort because the Arctic is warming at twice the global average. As the ice thins, new shipping lanes and vast mineral deposits beneath the seafloor are becoming accessible for the first time. The Andrée expedition remains a warning of what happens when we underestimate this region. But as the ice continues to melt, the drive to secure the resources beneath it is only accelerating.